Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, unraveling the mysteries of the past and illuminating the present. Today, we find ourselves at the threshold of one of the most pivotal and devastating events in human history, the Bubonic Plague, which ravaged Europe from 1347 to 1351. This pandemic, also known as the Black Death, would leave an indelible mark on the fabric of society, culture, and human experience. As we delve into this narrative, let us first set our gaze upon the medieval world, a tapestry woven from the threads of feudalism, trade, and cultural exchange. The 14th century was a time of great upheaval and transformation, with the rise of city-states, the growth of a mercantile class, and the increasing complexity of international relations. In the early 1340s, the world was already grappling with the consequences of environmental disasters, economic downturns, and social unrest. The climate was changing, with the Little Ice Age bringing colder temperatures and crop failures, which in turn led to widespread famine and poverty. The social hierarchy was under strain, as the nobility and clergy held sway over a population struggling to survive. Meanwhile, the Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan's successors, had expanded its vast territories, creating a network of trade routes that stretched from China to Europe. This Silk Road, as it came to be known, facilitated not only the exchange of goods and ideas, but also the transmission of diseases. The Mongols' conquests had brought different populations into contact, allowing diseases to spread more easily across the vast expanse of their empire. As we move further east, we find ourselves in the midst of a bustling commercial center, the city of Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. This cosmopolitan metropolis was a hub of trade and commerce, attracting merchants and travelers from all corners of the known world. It was here, in the early 1340s, that reports began to emerge of a mysterious illness, one that would soon spread its dark wings across the continent. The Genoese, a prominent trading nation, had established a foothold in the Crimean city of Kaffa, where they maintained a thriving commercial presence. It was through this outpost that the plague would eventually make its way to Europe, carried by the fleas that infested the rats that inhabited the ships and warehouses of the Genoese merchants. The social, economic, and environmental conditions are ripe for the spread of disease, and the networks of trade and commerce have created a conduit for its transmission. The people of Europe, from the nobility to the peasantry, are about to face a calamity that will shake the very foundations of their world. As the year 1347 dawned, the Genoese fleet, laden with goods and infected rats, set sail from Kaffa, bound for the ports of Europe. The ships, unwittingly carrying the seeds of devastation, made landfall in the autumn of that year, specifically on October 12, 1347, at the port city of Messina, Sicily. It was here that the bubonic plague first gained a foothold on European soil, as infected fleas began to spread the disease among the local population. The initial outbreak was swift and merciless, with the plague spreading rapidly throughout the island of Sicily. By the spring of 1348, the disease had reached the Italian mainland, where it found fertile ground in the crowded cities and towns. The city of Florence, a hub of commerce and culture, was particularly hard hit, with estimates suggesting that nearly half of its population perished in the first year of the plague. As the plague spread northward, it left a trail of death and destruction in its wake. The city of Paris, then the capital of France, was struck in June 1348, with the disease claiming thousands of lives in a matter of weeks. The University of Paris, one of the premier centers of learning in Europe, was forced to close its doors as professors and students alike fell victim to the plague. One of the most striking aspects of the bubonic plague was its ability to strike without warning, often with devastating consequences. In the words of a contemporary chronicler, the pestilence came so suddenly and swiftly that it seemed as if men were struck down by the wrath of God. This sense of divine retribution was echoed in the writings of many who lived through the plague, including the Italian poet Petrarch, who wrote of the plague as a scourge sent from heaven to punish humanity for its sins. As the plague continued its relentless march across Europe, social and economic norms began to break down. With so many dead or dying, traditional hierarchies were turned upside down, as those who had previously been at the bottom of society, the peasants and laborers, found themselves in high demand. Wages skyrocketed, and the feudal system, which had dominated European society for centuries, began to show signs of strain. The plague also had a profound impact on the Jewish community, many of whom were blamed for the outbreak and subsequent spread of the disease. In cities such as Strasbourg and Frankfurt, Jewish populations were subjected to violent pogroms, with thousands being killed or forced to flee for their lives. This tragic episode in the history of the plague serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of scapegoating and xenophobia in times of crisis. By the summer of 1349, the plague had reached the British Isles, where it spread rapidly throughout England, Wales, and Scotland. The city of London, then a major commercial center, was particularly hard hit, with estimates suggesting that nearly 2/3 of its population perished in the first year of the plague. As 1350 dawned, the plague showed no signs of abating, with new outbreaks reported in cities and towns across Europe. The city of Vienna, then a major cultural and commercial center, was struck in the spring of that year, with the disease claiming thousands of lives in a matter of weeks. In the countryside, entire villages were abandoned as the plague ravaged rural communities, leaving behind only the sick, the dying, and the dead. The plague's impact on European society was not limited to the immediate devastation it caused. As the disease continued to spread, trade and commerce began to grind to a halt, leading to widespread economic disruption and social unrest. In England, the plague contributed to the collapse of the feudal system, as labor shortages gave rise to a new class of landowners and tenants. As the plague finally began to recede in the early 1350s, Europe was left to pick up the pieces and come to terms with the unprecedented devastation it had wrought. The demographic impact was staggering, with estimates suggesting that between 30% and 60% of Europe's population had perished, leaving deep scars that would take centuries to heal. The social and economic fabric of the continent had been irreparably altered, as traditional hierarchies were turned upside down and new classes emerged to fill the power vacuum. One of the most significant consequences of the plague was the rise of a new class of landowners and tenants in England. As labor shortages gave rise to a more mobile and assertive workforce, this, in turn, contributed to the collapse of the feudal system, paving the way for the emergence of a more modern capitalist economy. As the years passed, the plague became a distant memory, but its impact on European society and culture continued to be felt. The trauma and disruption caused by the plague led to a renewed focus on spirituality and the afterlife, as people sought to make sense of the catastrophic event that had ravaged their world. This is evident in the works of writers such as Geoffrey Chaucer, who wrote of the plague's devastating effects on English society in his Canterbury Tales. In the words of historian Barbara Tuchman, the plague was a watershed in the history of Europe, marking the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of a new era of social, economic, and cultural transformation. This sentiment is echoed in the art and literature of the time, which often reflected on the plague's profound impact on human society. The Danse Macabre, a medieval allegory that depicted death as a great leveler, became a popular theme in art and literature, serving as a stark reminder of the plague's egalitarian nature. Today, the Bubonic Plague is remembered as one of the most significant events in human history, a traumatic watershed that marked the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of a new era of growth, transformation, and upheaval. The plague's legacy can be seen in the modern world, from the rise of capitalism to the development of modern medicine. The Bubonic Plague's place in history is a testament to the enduring impact of this devastating event, which continues to fascinate and horrify us to this day. The plague may be a distant memory, but its legacy continues to shape our world, serving as a powerful reminder of the enduring power of human history. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.